The room is dark, but not so dark that anyone sitting in here can't see. Orange light emanating from an old fireplace flickers and dances along dusty, unadorned concrete floor and walls. An old man, aged beyond his years, sits crooked in a worn out, tattered brown reclining chair that faces at an awkward angle to the old, charred earthen fireplace. Before him are several children, waiting in anticipation for the story to be told. Some young, some older, dressed in a mix of downtrodden clothing, possibly scavenged over the years and passed down from the eldest to the youngest. All gazes are fixated on the old man. He peers over his shoulder as he lights up his pipe, taking a long draw and blowing out smoke rings in the direction of an old cathode ray tube TV sitting in the corner. He scoffs and turns back to the children. Well, 'twas a time when stories came out of a box. That's the thing of the past now. Gone are the days of sunbathing in the Bahamas, traveling overseas to different countries and the rest of it. He points his pipe at the direction of the TV, his eyes narrow in thought. But, and there's a long pause. It's been a time since such things have worked the way that they used to. I remember a time before the world was ending, those days drawing longer and longer, but the time seemed to pass quite quickly. Maybe that's why we destroyed it all. We're always rushing to do things. And even though we as humans had tried to save the earth, we ended up just destroying it. Is that good or bad? I think that's for you to decide when you're older. Or one could consider that we never destroyed anything at all, that we have just given Earth life and you younglings a chance. He leans back, stroking his long greying beard. Panacea, that was it. That was our saving grace. And we had to rid the world of humanity's pollution and ill-conceived ideas. Well, that was many, many, many years ago now. And, well, before you were even born. But enough of that. I need to tell you about where you all came from. It's a little place from here, a little place on a hill. That hill was surrounded by water, and the place was known as the Oasis, known for its hospitality, its trade, and the shelter it offered people during times of hardship and stress. Some folks back then weren't as hostile as others, and you had two different kinds of people, the ones that gave and the ones that just took. Noticing his pipe had gone out, he strikes up another match and lights the end of the pipe, again drawing a long breath and puffing out a series of smoke rings into the air above the children. Now, where was I? And he scratches his head as he looks about the room. Oh, yeah. Sure as the sky is blue and the trees are green or the crimson winds are red, an interesting event was about to befall the people of the Oasis. One can't say whether 'twas a good thing or a bad thing, as the events over there are none of the reasons why you're all here. Safe from the creatures of the nature that roamed outside, he taps his pipe in an attempt to settle the burning tobacco. The people of the Oasis were about to face a crisis. A storm had rolled in the night before, leaving some damage from flying branches and debris. It was a wild storm, and the people of the Oasis had to take shelter in the storm room. Brendan, being the noble firefighter, fit as a fiddle and tall and with luxurious long hair that swept over his shoulders like angelic angel wings as he walked, had to don his old breathing equipment to fix up one of the window panels over the observatory during the storm. Being a firefighter in his pre-existing life, he was a man who had many skills. He was trained as a medic, could rescue a cat from a tree, and would even run into burning houses to save little old ladies and children. This was a man who was afraid of very few things. Wind was howling above him, light flashing everywhere, and then the air above turned red. For a moment, the air became still, and through the clouds behind flashes of lightning, he thought for a moment he saw something huge flying through the sky. It was the largest thing he'd ever seen. Long, like a ship, but no wings? Thinking he was seeing things, he decided to keep what he saw to himself. So the next morning was when everything started. William, he was the groundskeeper who sometimes liked to take a sip of the drink in his spare time, beyond brewing such concoctions, alerted everyone to an issue he had awoken to. One of the generators must have run low on oil the night before, and no one noticed. The storm had covered the sounds of the failing diesel engine. During storms of such ferociousness, the Oasis had to run jennies to keep the air clean through the central heating system. One of the reasons the residents needed to shelter into the storage room was the only place that was airtight, see? Nicole, a strong-willed young woman in her 20s who liked to play the harmonica on occasion, she was the quartermaster at the time, had made provisions for sheltering in such situations, cramped as they were. It was still better than the alternative. She would often bring out old books from before the fall to read to the children and the adults during such times. It seemed to calm everyone down, and people really relied on her to know what to do when things were needed. Well, wait, am I getting off track again? Anyway, the next morning, as I was saying, all hell broke loose when Willie came in and was hollering to everyone. Struth! The old girl's gone and cocked it again. I think it's bad this time, however.
So Val is dressed in his park ranger faded uniform, khaki pants, which are like cargos, and a thick canvas shirt. He's reasonably neatly shaved, but not perfectly so. And his hair's a little longer than he would normally have had it pre-blight. He gets up and he turns and he looks at Taryn. And he says, "Don't forget to leave the proper spacing when you plant the seeds later today." And she gives him a look, and he gives a apologetic motion. And then he starts to tap out a cigarette, and he puts it in his mouth. And she frowns. And he looks down. "I know. No smoking around the children or in here or the greenhouse or the conservatory. I'm going outside." And he turns and walks outside.
Sybil, who was sitting against one of the walls of the storage room and petting Milo the dog, who is a large mixed breed with sort of black and white spots, looks up and for a moment annoyance sort of flashes across her face, but then she manages to smooth that away. She has a different color of hair than she did when she arrived, and as there's not really been any opportunity to dye hair here, you assume that means it was dyed before and it has faded. It is no longer black, it is sort of a mousy brown. And she stands up and will walk over to William and, with no longer any trace of annoyance, is going to say, "William, it is difficult to understand you when you are so worked up. Could you try and explain yourself a little better?"
Betty, the old Jenny, is gone and cocked it.
I see. So you have no recommendation?
Where are you going? As he looks at Val, who walks past him.
I'm going to go look at the generator.
I didn't pick you for the tech-savvy one.
Well, that seemed more useful than looking at anything else at the moment.
All right, follow me then.
And she turns and looks back at the dog that she was paying attention to before and says, Milo, stay. And seeing that he is obediently sitting there and not likely to follow, she will also head for the door.
Kurt will stop leaning against the wall. He's wearing the undershirt of a suit. He'll start making his way to the door. Nicole, check for parts. The generator, Nicole.
Oh, we don't have any parts for the generator.
You're 100% sure we have nothing?
So we have parts from an old buggy out the back. Like one of those old golf carts. I'm not sure if that would work.
Some of those might. Thank you, Nicole. See if you can get somebody to bring them over.
Of course, sir.
And Kurt will start making his way for the door.
I see the mayor is joining us.
He struggles not to be involved in things.
I've noticed. Don't know why. It's a lot easier to remain uninvolved.
Not when you're used to it.
Suppose so.
We're just going to go through the observatory out the back. And then we'll have a look at the Jenny. Poor Betty. I think she's really done a number this time. And he opens the door to the outside, which is the rear of the conservatory, where there's a large cage that houses 2 generators, and one is still running.
And Val will kneel down and examine the generator.
It is cold, and the other generator is still running and emanates a lot of heat, but it's being diesel. It is a large... You can consider them like the size of old tractor engines, like old 12-cylinder diesel engines, and they're just chug, 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 chug.
So has this never happened before?
All too frequent, to be honest.
Well, then what do we normally do?
Normally, we have parts,
Hmm.
and not buggy parts.
I just hope that it shut off on its own before any major damage. I'd hate to think that it was poor thing seized up inside, or broke a bearing or two.
And how will we know without firing it up?
Well, I've tried to fire it up, and he flicks on the choke, pushes the start button, and nothing happens.
Have we spoken to any nearby communities with a resident mechanic? By any chance, we could try and arrange something.
I dare not think or hope that a doctor would know what to do with an engine, as they would know how to, fix someone with a broken arm. And those cave dwellers, well, they're only good for one thing.
But at the hospital, if they want to keep any of their equipment running, someone must do something. Maybe.
Well, it could be possible that we could talk to them to see who they rely on.
I don't think we have much choice at this moment. Val would like to examine the generator to see if he can work out what is actually failed so that they know what to look for.
Okay. And you want to roll for this?
I thought it might be a good idea to have a roll.
It's a compelling challenge to find out exactly what's wrong with it. Which is 6 to 7. We'll make it on the low side, so 6.
And I'm doing that because he's not a mechanic.
Fair.
But he's been around long enough to not be completely useless, but
You
he's not a
would
mechanic,
have
so-
had access to things like diesel generators and stuff, especially in parks and wildlife.
So, as this is the first roll, I am going to be rolling standard dice, and in our case, they are blue, and I will roll 4 of them.
Anything 2 and above is a success. A 1 is a failure.
On the whole roll, too.
Ooh.
And he fails.
Oh, no. Yeah, just 1-1 there, but that's all it takes.
So, Val looks for a while, and a couple of times he thinks he might have found the root cause, but realizes he hasn't. He might have found a couple of things that are wrong, but certainly not everything, and not enough to fully be able to say, this is what we need and this is what we should do. And after a while, he turns around and he says, I found a couple of things. I mean, they get a lot of work, but yeah, I think we need someone with a bit more training in this field.
If we can find anyone, we should be able to convince them. I mean, beyond whatever we can offer them, we can put it as that they're helping themselves too if they ever get any food from us, directly or indirectly.
I can lead you to the hospital. That, in and of itself, is not particularly difficult, but I would advise. And he looks with a certain amount of, like, I can't believe I'm saying this. Either of you two do the negotiation.
I was planning on going anyway.
Well,
I am sure you were.
if the mayor is going, I'm sure you can manage negotiations without me. Surely. I would put it high on the list of priorities.
And that's why you should come.
Look, I won't deny that I can negotiate, but so can he.
Yes. But 2 negotiators are better than 1.
Look, you know the area. How dangerous is the path to the hospital?
It's not entirely safe, but I think that I can get you there. It could be a lot worse.
Fine, I'll hold you to that. So what's our plan? Just head to the hospital, ask who they have come provide maintenance for their equipment, and can they put us in touch?
Yeah, our people will talk to their people. William, in all of this, did you actually figure out what was wrong? I know you're hoping it's not seed,
I'm not entirely sure.
but we're probably going to have to pull Betty apart.
We need to recruit a mechanic.
I
And Val looks down and says, well, sometimes you just got to hope for a miracle.
That would be nice, but well, we haven't gotten any yet, have we?
Oh, ye of little faith. In
We
a
got-
community with some believers.
I was gonna say, they've got the faith covered, don't they?
Well, maybe they can pray. Pray for Diesel.
We'll put in a prayer request before we leave. Who's our contact at the hospital these days?
Last time I went over there was a month ago.
And did he mention anything they were looking for in particular?
They weren't in dire need a month ago, but alcohol always helps. Strong stuff or rubbing alcohol.
That's true. From what I remember, they're always looking for that. Well, we can check with Nicole what our current stores are. Bring some along. Whether or not they need it, it's a decent peace offering before we ask a favor.
I agree.
I'll go check with that. And Kirk will walk off.
And she will turn back around and start heading the way we came, back to the storeroom where everyone else is.
So, we had the 4 heading back inside, going to talk to the others while one of the people of the Oasis, Baker, who used to work at the observatory as a security guard before the fall, had opened the padlock to the main shutters. The main shutters being big steel grates that were able to be drawn down at night. So he headed outside to survey the damage that had been caused by the storm, and eventually he came upon a boat washed up in the car park of the Oasis, which was close to the bottom of the hill. And the scene changes to a man walking with a dog down a leaf-littered road to a small skiff rocking against the water's edge in the car park. He turns and calls out, "Valentine!"
Always something. And he stops.
Right,
And turns.
there's number 2.
Will you shut up?
What is it now?
And he hurries off in the direction of the yelling.
Sybil's gonna go too because she has no idea what's going on. And doesn't really like that.
You race out through the double glass doors with the steel grated cage that has been raised overhead, and you can see Baker about halfway down a leaf-littered road towards the car park, and Milo is with him. And beyond them is a small skiff rocking against the water's edge, and then a lone figure emerges from the skiff trying to pull another person from it.
And he will hurry down to Baker. What's going on, Baker?
And Baker points. Do we help?
Look to the two.
Help them out of the boat? What do you mean?
Don't we usually help people?
Yes, were you asking should we help them out of the boat? I am... Yes, help them out of the boat.
Valentine, can you help me help them get out of the boat?
Valentine will go down.
With Baker?
He will look at Baker and realize how much he just finds the man aggravating.
That's 2 people in the
And
group.
At least.
At least. I'm getting. I've got to introduce the other ones yet.
And he will firstly make sure that they do not appear to be a threat.
And the husband looks up. Help us, please. My wife is pregnant and needs help. And he struggles to keep her up as she stumbles forward out of the boat.
And Val will try to render aid. At the very least, keeping her from falling over.
And the lady, who appears to be obviously pregnant, her head lifts up. Please help me. Please, my baby.
It's just one thing after another today.
She looks to be in distress, hunched over. She has wet. All her clothes are completely drenched. Her hair is matted and saturated, and she collapses to her knees as you catch her, Valentine.
Where were you going?
We were trying to get to the hospital last night when the storm hit and the wind swept us off course, dragging us down the river faster than we could row. And then something hit us. Large. Came out of the river and tore up the boat.
I don't...
Have a look at for yourself. And
No, I believe you. There's some... We have Chimera.
Why do you have to remind me of that?
Nice to know. No one told us about them.
We don't have a doctor. What do we do? Get the school nurse?
Right now, she's the best we've got. She would have had some training.
I'll be back. And Sybil's gonna bend down and try and see. Is the lady... You said she collapsed to her knees or
Yeah.
something? Okay. So Sybil's going to bend down and try and get one of the woman's arms over her shoulder so she can try and start helping her.
And Val will take the other arm and he will point to Baker because he's like, this would at least get rid of you. Go and get the nurse. We'll meet her midway.
And he runs
I
off.
hate that guy. And trying not to cause the woman any more distress than she already is under, and not having any real medical training.
Yeah.
He's doing his best to move her.
We don't have a doctor here. We do have someone with some medical training, and we were planning on heading to the hospital anyway. What are your symptoms, I suppose? I am not a medical professional either.
I think I'm having contractions, and it's difficult to breathe.
All right, well, let's get you inside, where we can get you lying down, or whatever it is one does in such a scenario. Does one do
Is
in
she
such
cold?
a
Is she
scenario?
feverish?
Okay. She is cold.
Okay.
To
So
touch.
it doesn't feel like a fever.
I guess they just got out of the water, though, too.
Yeah.
So more hypothermia from the... Well,
Yeah.
not hypothermia, but
Chill.
chill from the water. Val looks to the husband. Do you have extra clothes for her?
He shakes his head.
Of course not.
We should have told Baker to get some blankets.
We had limited
too.
supplies when we left.
Where are you from?
That way. He points west.
Mm.
Down the river. We were told that there was a hospital this way. We come from a
There
small
is.
community. There was only 4 of us there.
Well, we're not the hospital, but we'll see what we can do.
You managed to drag her up to the reception area.
And Val, who's got even less medical idea than he does with the diesel, is not going to do any form of examination.
No, we're
He's
waiting
just
for...
waiting for the nurse.
It's Medley? Is it?
Medley.
All right, we're waiting
He
for
will
Medley.
look for, though, a blanket or anything like that once we've got her somewhere to at least try to...
Okay, you rush off to get a blanket.
And find someone who might have clothes.
The woman turns to you, Sybil, and she starts clasping her chest and then goes into a coughing fit. And you see spittles of blood come out of her mouth, and some of which hit you in the face and clothes, and she collapses after suddenly going pale.
Oh no. And Sybil turns to look at the husband. What's he doing?
He looks at her and he visibly goes pale. What's wrong?
Medley!
What's going on?
She's just calling for the nurse now. And she'll kneel down and try and check that the woman is still breathing while waiting
And
for...
she is still breathing,
nurse.
but her breath is slightly raspy.
So she'll turn back to the husband and say, she's still breathing.
What's going on? She's only just had a cold for the last few days. She hasn't even been able to get rid of. We didn't think much of it. She's only had minor symptoms.
I don't know. A nurse is coming and she can tell you more than I can. But breathing is good. Breathing is good. So you try and stay calm, because us panicking's not going to help anyone. And if the nurse still hasn't shown up right away, Sybil's just going to try and... She's not going to try CPR or anything like that if the woman, say, has like a zipper all the way up to her neck or something. She'll try and loosen that a little bit to see if that makes breathing any easier or anything obvious like that. She will attempt to do, but she's not doing anything that could make stuff worse. Or at least not trying to.
Medley, young woman in her 20s, currently wearing a jumpsuit. Baker and Medley enter the reception area. I have brought Medley. Right, what's going on then?
Husband said she's had a cold for the past while. It hasn't gone away. She said she was having trouble breathing when we brought her up. Just coughed blood onto me and collapsed. So that's as much as I know.
She pulls out a thermometer from inside her jumpsuit and puts it in the mouth of the lady and feels her head. She's cold. We need to get her out of these clothes.
I think Valentine went to find something. They were in the river.
You said she was in labor?
She said she was feeling contractions before she passed
she puts
out.
her head down to her chest.
They were on their way to the hospital when the
Baker?
storm...
Close that door.
Hurry, please, Baker.
And he closes the door to the rest of the observatory, the mayor. And you are in the storeroom when Valentine rushes in.
Kirk will look over.
Is there something you need, sir?
And he turns around, what? And he shakes off the blanket. Clothes. And he's somewhat flustered, because this isn't exactly what he deals with. Woman, pregnant. Clothes. Clothes, not pregnant.
Pregnant woman?
Right.
Okay. We have... Okay, these should fit. And she hands you, obviously...
One size fits all. Right. Got it. And he just takes off.
Kirk will look back. Why don't you go assist Medley? He gives her a little shove.
As she's walking out the door, and she turns. This is not a recommended course of action. And she leaves. Valentine, the door to the reception is closed and locked.
Looks at the door like, what the hell? And starts kicking it.
And Medley looks up. No, and she puts her hand up. No, don't come in.
I got blankets and clothes.
Find a way around the back and leave them out the front at a distance.
Find the way out the back and leave them at the front of the distance. It's everyone in this place. And he takes off again.
Why is he leaving the clothes at a distance? I thought we needed them now.
If it's what I think it is, we're probably already infected.
Infected with what?
I've seen this before. Mainly in people who haven't been vaccinated.
What are you talking about?
And she stammers a little bit. I think this could be tuberculosis.
And Sybil actually looks relieved for a moment and then slightly laughs and says, "Oh, is that all? I don't know anything about tuberculosis. What does that do?"
Like the cold or flu, except it can affect people in certain ways that they end up, their lungs can fill with blood. If we have been exposed to tuberculosis, there is a chance that it won't affect you, but it is highly infectious. And if you do get sick, it can be pretty serious. The solution is to go on a course of antibiotics.
Which we don't have. funnily enough, I was actually on my way to begin heading to the hospital before all this happened, but apparently, if I'm infected now, I'm guessing I shouldn't even go.
No, you shouldn't go. Um, you'll have to remain here, isolated from everybody.
Well, I don't know what you told Valentine to leave the clothes outside for then. He already helped carry her in here.
Oh, great. So it's possible he could be infected as well.
So, someone has to go to the hospital. Who's going then?
And Valentine is now at the front.
And he will look for somewhere dry to put the stuff, and he will put it there and then walk back.
Nicole is standing at the door looking in through the window. And she looks like she's wondering what's going on, why the door is locked and closed.
And Sybil will go over and look through the window at her. So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Apparently, we're quarantined now, so you can't come in, and we can't leave, and we need antibiotics, so.
So, are you guys okay?
Well, for the time being, everyone is alright, except for. Sorry, what is your wife's name, and what is your name? And she's turning to the husband.
My name's George. My wife's name is Allie.
All right. For the time being, everyone is all right except for Allie, who is unconscious and would need the antibiotics rather sooner than anyone else. Apparently, though, the rest of us could also be infected, and I had blood coughed into my face, so that's,
Infected?
promising.
Infected? What do you mean infected?
Medley thinks it could be tuberculosis.
So there's the possibility that if Valentine got infected, that the whole conservatory has been infected.
So my understanding of the situation is we need antibiotics. Allie here especially needs antibiotics. She also felt contractions before passing out, so we may have, a birth here very soon. And that's something else I don't know that we've got any supplies prepared for. So, dunno, want to go get some towels and. Well, what is it people get for a birth?
Warm water, towels, sterilization stuff.
If you can find any of those and some antibiotics, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'm on it. I am on it. Except antibiotics, out of the question. You'll have to go to the hospital for
Someone
that.
has to go to. Well, I can't go to the hospital. Apparently, someone else has to.
So we'll have to go to the hospital. Maybe with Valentine, unless he's infected. But we don't know he's infected, so Nicole soon disappears down the hallway.
All right, George. Apparently, George, we are going to try and do what we can, but please understand, I am nowhere close to a doctor, and Medley, as she just stated, has only worked in the medical field insofar as being a school nurse. So, we'll do what we can.
Thank you for your help. We're sorry to be such trouble.
It's not your fault, I don't think. Baker, don't suppose you've got a hidden talent as a doctor?
Not really. Although I have watched a lot of TV back in the day.
All right. Yeah, that's nothing.
Kurt will come out, see the chaos, just kind of watch it. He has a little satchel with some rubbing alcohol and vodka and stuff.
And Nicole passes you on the way, and she looks down at your satchel and she says, I think you're going to be the one to go to the hospital, sir. And you're probably going to need more than just rubbing alcohol. And Valentine enters the hallway. So, situation has changed, Valentine and sir.
In what way?
Medley thinks the girl has TB.
Well, I had all my shots pre-blight. Now, unless Sybil was anti-vaccination, she would have had all hers too. I don't know about the infected woman. Like, these things were pretty common before the blight. Really, only people born after it would have been more at risk, wouldn't they?
So, how do we get our antibiotics?
By being anti-sick. As in, you and me probably can go to the hospital, but we will have to meet them at a safe distance.
Sorry.
We will have to disinfect anything we trade with them so that... But otherwise, we can probably still do that.
Kirk will kind of gesture to his satchel. These have been in storage for months. I don't think we need to.
Okay, so I won't touch any of that stuff then.
And Nicole starts walking down the hallway and towards the reception. And Nicole appears back at the door.
Lost the towels?
Mr. Valentine wanted to know if you'd been vaccinated. He said that people born before the blight happened should have their vaccinations. Were your parents?
Oh. That is right. I do. Good.
Yes. Most of us should be vaccinated already, Medley says.
I completely
But
forgot. Medley, you
does-
panicked me and I forgot.
Okay, that's good. You're vaccinated. Meeting Kurt and Valentine. Sybil is vaccinated.
Well, that's good. So, considering the situation we find ourselves in and with...
All stuck in quarantine?
Well, just the illness, some of the risks, some of the uncertainty. I think it might be a good time to use one of our gifts. Community ones.
Oh. Okay.
And which one were you proposing?
I think I know, but go ahead, make your case.
I think I like Scout.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, so now all players have to agree for us to use a gift, right?
All players have to agree. So with Scout, we get to either ask for information from traveling nomads or the like. It can either be information or an item, stuff like that. So I am definitely saying we should use traveling nomads to obtain an item for us.
Yeah, let's ask for an item. Let's ask
as
for
one of the items.
antibiotic.
It says, yeah, because it does say the item can be unusual or hard to get. So in this case, I absolutely think we should try to communicate with some nomads and get them to obtain for us the antibiotics.
All right. Well, I will agree to this. How about SPG?
I will agree. That sounds like a great idea.
All right. Well, I'm assuming you agree since you proposed it. It would be strange for you to say, well, it was my idea, but actually.
Exactly. No, I agree.
All right. Sounds like we are in agreement. So
we're halfway through the session. Stick around because in the next video, we will conclude this crisis with the characters using a community gift as well as using character gifts to overcome some challenges that will face them in the future.